director greets him, but apologizes because he doesn't have time to talk, but tells Yuya to remember to just enjoy himself at the school. Yuya is introduced to the class as an official student, and we see Ryo and Shingo who are happy to see him. We cut to a soccer game, and we meet a student named Roy. He scores a goal, and all the girls cheer for him. Yuya watches from the sidelines, impressed at his skill, and he is approached by a girl named Kaide. She wonders why he doesn't join the game, but Yuya says he doesn't have his gym clothes yet. We see Roy as he goes up against the opposing team himself, but he tricks them, passing the ball to his teammate Akira. Akira rushes at the goal, preparing to use his special move, but he messes up and kicks it straight at Kaide. However, Yuya manages to stop it and even scores a goal in the process. Everyone is shocked, wondering how he moves so quickly. He checks to see if Kaide is okay, but she is left stunned by his riz. Akira comes rushing over to apologize, swearing to become her servant, but Kaide says she is okay and turns him down. Ryo vouches for Akira, saying he is just a bit quirky, and Akira thanks him for saving the both of them. Later on, we see Kaori as she goes to get changed for gym class. All the girls are talking about Yuya, thinking he is like a prince. Kaide tells her about everything that happened, and the girls think he must have a girlfriend since he is so cool. But Kaori and Kaide both insist that nothing has been confirmed. During his next class, Yuya waves to Kaori who is down on the field. But suddenly, some delinquents come bursting in on motorbikes. They surround the girls, swinging their bats, and all the students check out the commotion. They recognize the group as the Red Ogres, the most dangerous delinquent group in the area. Yuya recognizes them, and sees his siblings with the group. Kaori wonders what they are doing at their school, and Yuya's brother Yuta points her out as the director's daughter. Kaori recognizes the two of them, and they say they are there to get back at her for looking down on them and accepting Yuya into the academy. Kaori warns them that the police are on the way, but Yuya's sister Sora thinks they have time before they show up, so they plan to abduct her as payback. The goons surround her, and things are looking bad. Yuya wants to save her, but finds his legs shaking. Even though he has fought far stronger opponents in the other world, he has emotional damage facing the bullies. His friends worry about him as he panics, but he manages to snap himself out of it. He opens the window and jumps out, shocking everyone since they are on the 4th floor, but Yuya lands unarmed. He charges in, confronting his old bully Araki, who says it's time to teach him a lesson. He sends his boys at Yuya, but he easily dodges all their attacks and disarms them all in an instant. Araki tries to attack, but Yuya runs right past him, focusing on saving Kaori. But he is stopped by an enormous guy named Amori. The guy charges at him, but Yuya doesn't even budge, and he throws him to the side. Yuya gets to Kaori, checking to see if she is okay, but the boss of the gang charges at Yuya. Yuya manages to dodge, but the boss attacks with his bike. Yuya jumps out of the way, and the guy ends up losing control and crashing his bike. The boss is knocked out, and the police arrive. All the delinquents are arrested, and the students are told to get back to their classes. Yuya makes sure Kaori is okay, and she suddenly becomes weak, but Yuya catches her, and they share a moment. Meanwhile, Yuya thinks that the Red Ogres were useless, but he suddenly gets choked by the boss, who blames him for their situation. Sora begs for him, but she just gets kicked away, and Yuya continues to be choked. But Yuya gets in the way, breaking them up, and Yuya thanks him. The boss charges at him, but Yuya just stares him down. The students wonder what happened, but everything settles down, and Yuya wonders why he saved him. But Yuya says that even though they have been terrible to him, they are still his family, so he couldn't just abandon them. His brother is moved to tears, and they beg for his forgiveness, apologizing for everything they have ever done. He is joined by his friends, and he apologizes for the trouble that occurred because of him, but they are all amazed by him, wondering how he could jump out the window. Yuya goes to do some exploring in the other world, but remembers a warning from Owen, telling him that the Dark Forest is considered the most dangerous region in the lands, with monsters so strong that they would easily be able to destroy a city, so Yuya wonders about the sage who used to own the house. He explores deeper into the forest, looking for stronger monsters to face, when he suddenly hears a cry, and sees a puppy being attacked by an orc. The puppy glows with a dark energy, but it's too weak to fight. Yuya watches from a distance, and sees that the orc is a level 600 orc king, with over 20,000 attack. Yuya thinks he doesn't stand a chance, so he gives up on saving it, but the orc continues beating the dog, stomping on its body. Yuya can't bring himself to just leave it, thinking about what his grandfather would do, so he decides to help, thinking he might be able to just distract the orc. He charges at it, but actually took it out with a single shot, and he starts to get embarrassed after taking so long to work up the courage, only to have things end so easily. But he thinks back to the ogre he defeated when he was still at level 1, and he starts to wonder about the sage who created such insane weapons. He checks on the dog, but it growls at him. He offers it a potion, but it ends up passing out. He quickly treats the dog, and it starts to take a liking to him. He tries talking to it, and he learns that it's all alone with nowhere to go, so he offers to take it in. The dog happily agrees, and Yuya suddenly gets the taming skill, making the dog his new companion. He checks out its stats, and finds that it's actually a level 500 black Fenrir, and he is impressed by its stats. He thinks about giving it a name, and looking at its black fur, he decides to call it Knight, who happily jumps onto him. They head back to his house, and he checks out the items dropped by the Orc King. There's an S-ranked magic stone and the sword and armor used by the Orc King, but the gear can't be used by humans, but it's possible for them to be reforged. There's also a rare brush, which has the ability to stimulate hair growth, but he uses it to brush Knight. He checks out his own stats and finds he is still at level 235. He finds it strange he didn't level up even after defeating a level 600 monster, but he thinks he will work out the leveling system eventually. Back in the real world, he leaves Knight in his house as he goes to school. He asks his friends if there are any pet shops around, revealing that he just adopted a dog. Kaide gets excited hearing this, asking to see pictures, but Yuya gets nervous with her getting so close. She apologizes, and Yuya says he doesn't have any pictures because he doesn't even have a smartphone. His friends find him a bit weird for this, but he just says he never really needed one. They tell him about the nearby pet shop, but they say they aren't free to go with him after school. But Kaide offers to take him. Yuya thanks her for helping, but she starts thinking it could be like a date, but she tells him not to worry about it. When he gets home, Knight rushes to him, and Yuya shows him the different items that Kaide helped him pick out from the shop. He gives Knight his new collar, and he decides they should go for a walk. They go to the park, but everyone stares at him, thinking he looks so cool and that Knight is so cute. He ends up running into Kaori, and he introduces Knight to her. She starts petting him and finds him adorable, while the onlookers think they are a perfect couple. Kaori asks him about Knight's breed, but he pretends he doesn't know, since he can't say it's a Fenrir. But Kaori can tell he is super smart and happy that Yuya adopted him. A girl calls out to Yuya, and it turns out to be Miyu, the model he worked with. It turns out she also lives around the area and comes to the park to walk. Yuya introduces the girls, and the people are amazed to see him with another beautiful girl. They start to draw even more attention, as people start to recognize Miyu. Not wanting to cause a scene, Miyu decides to leave, but looks forward to running into him again. After she leaves, Kaori wonders if Miyu is his girlfriend, but Yuya is shocked, saying that he has only met her once before, and that she would be too good for him, but Kaori doesn't agree with him. A woman suddenly screams, as a man runs away with her purse. Kaori wonders what they should do, and Yuya tells Knight to go after the man. They check up on the old lady, and Knight soon returns, dragging the man back. Yuya tells Kaori to call the police, but the man gets free, charging at Kaori to stop her. But Yuya gets in the way, easily disarming and restraining him. The crowd cheers for him, thinking he is so cool, and Kaori thanks him for saving her once again. They hand the man over to the police, and Yuya heads home. Yuya continues exploring deeper into the dark forest. Together with Knight, they encounter countless monsters. They come across another orc king, but this time, Knight shows off his skills, biting its neck and taking it out all by himself. As they continue, they come across a crystal deer, which is at level 630. Yuya observes it while invisible, and sees that it has an impressive magic stat. He wonders how he should approach it, but it suddenly detects him, even through his invisibility, so he has no time to think. It charges at them, so the two split up. Knight tries to attack, but the deer uses magic, creating an explosion to defend itself. It charges up another attack, firing a blast of water at Yuya, but he manages to dodge it. Yuya thinks they need to work together, so he tells Knight to create an opening for him. Knight jumps around the deer with its speed, but the deer retaliates with its magic, causing countless explosions in the area. But Knight manages to land a hit, and Yuya takes the chance to finish it off. He checks out the item drops, and there is a box that catches his attention. As he examines it, it turns out to be a portable bath set that automatically stays clean, and even has a privacy feature to stop people from looking in. He is amazed to find such an item, and decides to try it out, finding that there are multiple settings he can choose from. It's too dangerous to use it in the middle of the forest, so he decides to return to his house for the night, and has a relaxing bath with Knight. The next day, they fight against a needle roller, which has exceptional speed. He struggles at first, but he manages to predict its movements and dodge its attack, causing it to get stuck in a wall, and he takes it out. He finally levels up to 240, and Knight also reaches level 510. The wall suddenly cracks, where the monster had crashed into it, and a cave is revealed, so they decide to check it out. Yuya scans for enemies, but there are no signs of any monsters. The cave suddenly lights up, as they reach a larger room. As they look around, Yuya is shocked to find a body, but Knight points out a book on the floor. Yuya checks it out, and it turns out to be the Book of the Sage. As Yuya reads the book, he learns that the sage was able to do everything, mastering every kind of skill and becoming as powerful as a god. The gods even asked him to join them, but he declined their invitation. The book starts talking to Yuya, warning him that as he gets stronger, the people around him will begin to fear him. Yuya wonders how he can prevent that from happening, and he suddenly hears the voice of the sage, telling him to find people he can trust. The sage asks him if there is anything he would like to know, and Yuya asks to learn magic. So the sage fills the book with all of his knowledge about magic. But he notes that Yuya can't use magic, because he doesn't have the magical circuits in his body, since he is from another world. However, the sage decides to pass on his own magical circuits to Yuya, telling Yuya to find happiness and to live a good life. Yuya returns to his house, and starts learning how to use magic from the book. He starts off by sensing the magical energy around him, and he learns the magic energy manipulation skill. He learns that all he needs to do is to gather magical energy in his hand, and just imagine the magic he wants to use. So he goes outside to try it out, imagining a ball of water, and it seems Knight is also learning. He tries shooting the ball at a tree, and it turns out to be ridiculously strong, blowing straight through the tree. Meanwhile, at the royal capital, Owen gives his report to the king. He tells the king about Yuya, but when he mentions how the princess proposed to him, the king loses it, thinking Yuya seduced his daughter. Back at the school, Yuya daydreams, thinking about the sage's book, warning him about using magic, because the techniques he is learning are not commonly known, even in the other world. The teacher reminds them that they will be going camping the following week, and sorts them into groups of 4. Yuya is put in a group with Kaide, along with Akira, and a girl named Rin. Kaide is excited for the trip, but Yuya mentions he doesn't really have any camping equipment, so Kaide suggests that they go shopping. They head to the mall, where Shingo is surprised to see Kaori joining them. Ryo also can't believe Yuya is friends with Kaori, because most people find her unapproachable, since she is the director's daughter, but she tells them just to think of her as any other student. Yuya wonders where Akira is, and Shingo mentions how he couldn't make it. They head inside, and they help Yuya pick out a backpack. They decide to hang out, and they end up at an arcade. Shingo gets excited seeing his favorite character in a crane game, but says he is terrible at the game. Yuya decides to give it a go. Using his detect weakness skill, he finds the weak spot and manages to win the figure in a single try. Kaide asks him to win her a cat, so he uses his skill again, and easily wins it for her. He ends up winning prizes for all his friends, and Kaori says it was her first time at an arcade, thanking him for his gift. The girls decide to do some shopping for clothes, so the guys have a break and go to the cafe for a drink. Yuya thinks about how much fun he had, being able to hang out with friends for the first time, but an alarm suddenly rings, as they are told there is a fire, and they need to evacuate. Yuya worries about the girls, thinking that the fire would be closer to them. They reach the staircase, and Yuya asks the man if he has seen his friends. Ryo gets a call from Kaide, who tells them they are still stuck upstairs. Yuya rushes up the stairs, thinking about his friends, and he reaches the source of the fire. The sprinklers aren't enough to put it out, so Yuya thinks it's time to use his magic. He covers his body with a layer of water, allowing him to run right through the flames. We see the girls unconscious from the smoke, while Yuya rushes to find them. He manages to make it to them just in time, and he wonders if there is anyone else. He uses his detection skill to scan the building, and it seems they are the only ones left. He covers the girls with his magic, but the fire surges, and he worries they won't make it out. Meanwhile, Ryo and Shingo watch from outside, telling the officers that their friends are still inside, but there is nothing they can do until they fight the fire. Yuya runs around looking for the exit, but the roof collapses, and as he dodges, Kaori drops the gift he gave her. He reaches a dead end, and he realizes there is no way out, so he uses his magic to smash through the building and make his own exit. The building shakes, but Yuya manages to make it out with the girls. The girls get treated, and the firefighters reprimand him for being so reckless. Kaori's father arrives, thanking him for saving his daughter again, and Yuya returns the otter pin he picked up. Kaori hugs her father, and Yuya thinks about what a family should be like, but he thinks that he doesn't really have anyone like that. But when he gets home, Night rushes to him, and he realizes they are family. Yuya thinks about what else he can do with magic, remembering that magic is just the materialization of his imagination. So he thinks about using it to travel, focusing on where he wants to go, and he manages to open a portal, which takes him deep into the dark forest. He is excited that it works, but it seems he can only use it to go to places he has already been. But he thinks he can use it to get home to feed Night, even when he goes on his school trip. They take the chance to do some more exploring, and they discover a cave, which happens to contain some goblins. But using his legendary sword, they are no match for him, and they find a whole bunch of rare items, storing them all away with his storage skill, and he thinks that his teamwork with Night is improving. They leave the cave, and Yuya thinks they should call it for the day, but Night gets sad, wanting to continue. Yuya says he needs to get back so that he can prepare for his school trip, but Night suddenly runs off. Yuya goes after him, and it seems Night detects something up ahead, so Yuya uses his invisibility skill to be careful, and he continues ahead. He comes across a girl that is injured, and is facing a number of goblins. Yuya wants to save her, but Night pulls him back. The elite goblin attacks, smashing down a tree, but there seem to be some threads that get in the way, and the girl attacks, cutting off the goblin's arm. Yuya wonders about the threads, but the goblins suddenly jump at the girl. She blocks their attack with her threads, but the elite goblin lands a hit on her, and it seems to knock her out. As the goblin approaches her, Yuya emerges, and together with Night, they take out the goblins. But there are suddenly countless other goblins that appear, so Yuya decides to use his divine whip, which binds all of the goblins, crushing them all in a single attack. And he thinks it's just too overpowered, because it can attack multiple targets at once, and it can never miss. After the fight, he wonders what he should do with the girl. He thinks about taking her back to his house, but it seems Night thinks it's a bad idea. He doesn't want to just leave the girl, but she suddenly wakes up, surprised she is being carried, and she ends up falling to the ground. Yuya offers her his healing juice, and it's able to instantly heal all of her injuries. The girl is surprised how effective it was, and wonders who he is. So Yuya introduces himself, as well as Night, but Night is hostile towards her, and Yuya wonders why. We learn that the girl's name is Luna, and she says she was training in the forest, but she was surprised by the elite goblin, and ended up getting into trouble. She wonders what happened to them, but Yuya tells her that he took them out. She asks what he is doing in the forest, and he ends up saying that he was also training, but the girl is surprised to hear this for some reason. Since Yuya was the one who carried her to safety, Luna apologizes to him for being so filthy and covered with sweat, but Yuya says it's okay. She wonders if there is a river nearby where she can rinse off, but Yuya brings out his bath. He keeps watch outside, and Luna can't believe he has such a rare item. Yuya mentions how he got it from a crystal deer, and Luna is impressed he could defeat such a monster. Yuya thinks it's normal for the dark forest, but Luna reveals she is actually there on a client's request, although Yuya doesn't hear this. Luna asks him to accompany her with her training. Since they are both training in the forest, she wants to train with him. Yuya feels bad about leaving her to train alone, so he ends up agreeing to join her. After that, we see them training together, as Yuya helps her practice, but she also teaches him as well. They both manage to get stronger, and we see Luna as she takes out a goblin with her threads. Yuya compliments her for being an elite, but she says she still has a long way to go, saying she needs to get even stronger so she can complete her mission. Yuya tells her he has to go, trying to explain that he has a school trip, but it doesn't really make sense to her, so he just apologizes, but she thanks him for all his help. After the last day of training, Yuya relaxes with a bath, but Luna suddenly joins him, wanting to share it with him. Yuya gets embarrassed, but Luna grabs onto him, telling him how much the time with him has meant to her, and saying that she will treasure it. She thanks him once again, offering to wash his back, but her towel suddenly drops, and Yuya becomes embarrassed. His class heads off on their school trip, and we see Yuya playing cards with his friends. Kaide thinks he looks tired, and Yuya admits he didn't get much sleep the previous night. Yuya wins the game, and they can't believe he just won 5 times in a row. But Yuya thinks the game should just be luck. Yuya decides to take a nap, and he thinks that he kept winning because he put a lot of points into his luck stat, thinking that the incident with Luna could have also been because of his luck. Yuya is woken up as they arrive at their destination. The students get changed, and their teacher explains that they have to go camping for 2 days and must find a way to survive off the land, telling them that there are fish in the river and plants that they could eat. Kaide worries that the plants could be poisonous, but Sawada tells them the school doctor is on standby, although the students find her creepy because they always hear screams coming from her office. Akira thinks they could just go without food for a day, but Sawada says it's all a part of the lesson, mentioning that it's a competition between the classes. Yuya wonders if there is a reward for the winners, but Sawada reveals it affects her bonus, so she tells them to do their best, but the students are not impressed. The students are left in the forest, and Yuya wonders what they should do first. Akira thinks it will be easy to survive, but the other 3 just ignore him, thinking he is a fool. Rin suggests that Yuya and Kaide try fishing, while she and Akira look for some edible plants. We see that all the students are by the river, and Kaide thinks they were too slow. They see Rio by the water, and he warns them that all the good spots are already gone. Kaide wonders if they should try something else, but Yuya uses his detection skill and manages to find another spot. There are lots of fish in the area, but Kaide thinks the water is too shallow, so their fishing pole won't be effective. But Yuya has another plan, and he gets into the water. He thinks that compared to the monsters in the dark forest, the fish are not as fast. He thinks about what he learned from Luna, about how to predict a monster's behavior, and he manages to catch a fish with his hand. Kaide is impressed seeing this, and Yuya continues to catch all the fish. The other students think he is crazy, and Kaide thinks he has caught too many. Yuya admits he got carried away, and he thinks about thanking Luna for her advice. Meanwhile, in the dark part of a town, we see a shop filled with puppets. Luna uses her thread, cutting off all their heads, and she notes that her power has improved. She thinks about her time with Yuya, but we learn she is actually an assassin, and has been killing ever since she was a child. But she finds Yuya different, wishing she could have met him sooner, so that her life might have turned out differently, but she knows she needs to forget about him, because she is the one known as the headhunter, and she prepares for her next target. Yuya and Kaide meet back up with Rin, showing her their haul, and she is surprised to hear Yuya caught all the fish with just his hands. Yuya wonders what happened to Akira, who is down on the ground, and he complains that Rin used him to test mushrooms to see if they were poisonous, and used him as a decoy to lure away bears. Yuya gets worried for him, checking his stats to see if he was poisoned, but is relieved to see he is okay. Rin and Akira show all the plants that they managed to gather, and Yuya praises them all with his skill, getting rid of some poisonous mushrooms. They head over to the building to show their teacher what they managed to collect, and we see other students as they get their food checked to make sure there is nothing poisonous. Yuya runs into Kaori, who asks him how his team is going. They talk about how they are finding the experience, until Kaori is called by her team. Akira is surprised at how close he is with her, wishing he could be more like Yuya. The team shows their haul to Sawada, and she compliments them for being the first team to bring back such a large amount of safe-to-eat food. She gets excited thinking about her bonus, but mentions they are also going to be graded for their cooking. She asks who plans to cook, and everyone points at Yuya. Sawada encourages him to do his best, telling him her bonus relies on him, but Yuya thinks she shouldn't be so transparent about her motives. Yuya starts preparing the food, thanks to his time living alone and cooking in the other world. He manages to prepare quite an impressive meal. The team digs in, and Yuya waits to see their reaction, but Sawada comes along after doing some drinking, and she is surprised to see the food they're eating. She tries some of the food as well, and Yuya gets nervous wondering how they like it, but they end up finding it amazing. Sawada says that even though their meals are prepared by first-rate chefs at the school, she finds his cooking even better, wondering how it's even possible. Yuya thinks how he only cooked for himself since he was alone, but is happy to see people enjoying his food. After the meal, Sawada asks if he would marry her, which surprises everyone. She reveals she can't cook or clean, because she was always focused on her research, and she has never been in a relationship before. And after eating his food, she thinks he is a catch, asking him to marry her and take care of her. Everyone tells her it's a bad idea, and Kaide even says Yuya is no good. But this makes him think he must be a failure as a person. But Sawada insists on marrying him, even saying she would wait for him. Yuya gets nervous, thinking it's not appropriate since she is his teacher, but tells her he thinks she is a good teacher. Sawada is happy hearing this, smothering him with her chest, while Kaide tries to pull him away, and Akira thinks he is the luckiest guy in the world. Later that night, Yuya teleports back to his house to check up on Knight. Using some food from his storage, he quickly fixes Knight some dinner. As he watches Knight eat, he thinks about how he enjoys making others happy with his food. He teleports back to the camp, where everyone is taking a shower together. Everyone stares at him, and Yuya wonders what's going on. Akira points out his body is ridiculous, and Yuya wonders what's wrong with it. But Akira can't believe how good-looking he is, as well as being insanely ripped. Meanwhile, in the girls' bathroom, Rin teases Kaide, saying all the boys must be into her, but they run into Kaori and mention how Sawada wanted to marry Yuya. Kaori is surprised hearing this, and the girls think Sawada has a certain advantage. Kaide seems to be inspired to make a move on Yuya as well. Kaori wonders if she is into Yuya, but she quickly denies it. Rin thinks she is too obvious, but Kaori wonders about Yuya's preference in girls. The next morning, some of the students find their belongings trashed, wondering if it might have been a thief. Akira has a worried look, while Yuya checks that all their belongings are still there. The group decides to look around for breakfast, but Akira gets scared, seeing scratch markings on a tree. Yuya remembers how Akira said he was used to lure away bears, and he realizes what's going on. As he looks around, the bear suddenly appears before the girls, and they quickly run away. The bear chases after them, and all the students panic. Sawada signals the group to take cover with her. The bear runs into the table, and Sawada tells them to get to safety. As they run, Sawada falls down, and the bear lunges at her, but Yuya gets in the way. He wrestles with the bear, throwing it to the ground and knocking it out. He checks up on Sawada, who tells him she would normally lecture him about fighting a bear, but since he saved her life, she decides to let him off the hook, even offering to marry him once again, which he politely declines. Yuya wonders what's going to happen to the bear, and Kaori ends up explaining they will take it in as a guard bear, and if it attacks people again, they will just eat him, and the bear seems to understand. So the issue is resolved, and the camping trip comes to an end.